When Everquest first came out in 1999, a lot of my friends were playing it. I took a brief look at it, but I really didn't think I'd be that interested. At that point, I was still looking at RPGs as either top-down or, isometric style games. Once in a while, you could get away with some pseudo 3D, maybe for dungeon crawling. I really didn't think it'd transfer well to a fully 3D space. Needless to say, I was wrong. In 2001, I was over at a friend's house. He happened to be playing EverQuest at the time, and I was watching him kill a giant in the middle of some desert area. I'm assuming it was somewhere either in the Oasis or South Row or something like that, but I started to realize there might be something to this. Shortly after that, my brother moved in with my wife and I. He just needed a place to crash for a while. He had just gotten out of the military. He was trying to find, a job, get himself established. We could use the help around the house too. He helped watch the kid. He helped with the housework. But he also played EverQuest. And it gave me some more exposure to the game, and I was really starting to get interested. That friend that I had originally been watching had an extra account that he wasn't using at the time, so he let me borrow it. I created a high elf mage, and for the first 5 levels, I had a blast. Then I found out how expensive it was to buy your spells and keep up on your pet, and since I was really new to the game, I didn't know of any appropriate ways to make money at a low level. I didn't know about selling, crush bone belts or the Lego shoulder pads, etc. So I was, basically killing stuff for minimal copper, and there was no way I could afford my spells or my pet, and I got to the point where I just couldn't move forward. So I logged him out and I never played him again. But those first 5 levels were insanely fun. So I rolled up another character. This time I resurrected a character that has been in my life since, very early 1980s when I was just discovering Dungeons and Dragons. I was playing a campaign with a few friends of mine, and there was a girl at school who wanted to, try it out. She wanted to know what Dungeons and Dragons was all about. So I talked my friends into letting her join us, even though they were all pretty much against it. The condition was, according to our dungeon master, that when she quit, not if she quit, when she quit, since he was going to be wasting all of this time catering a, adventure, modifying his campaign, I guess I should say, to fit this new character, that I would have to continue playing her character. Well, I, of course, didn't think she was going to quit, so I completely agreed to it. And then about 5 weeks later, when she quit, I got stuck with a female ranger named Alagriana. I had never played a ranger at that point. I really had no interest in playing a ranger at that point. I was a wizard, god damn it, and that's what I was going to stick with. And then I played her, and I had a blast. I continued playing that character for the next 2 years throughout various campaigns. So, when it came time to roll a new character in EverQuest, I dusted off Alagriana. Well, I leveled her for a little while, and then that friend that had loaned me the account needed the account back. It turned out he was making money selling characters on eBay. He would power level either a rogue, since they were the easiest to epic, or a cleric, since they made the most money. And where is... I don't have that memorized. He needed the account that I was on because he was going to level up a cleric and sell it. Couldn't really blame him. He was getting about $800 a cleric back in those days. He said he could get between $400 and $500 for a rogue, $800 to $900 for a cleric. So I, was out of a game. I still couldn't afford it myself, really. Luckily, my brother was still living with us, and he let me create a character on his account. However, I was not able to make one on his server because he didn't have any available character slots. So this time I rolled and went on, I believe, the Lucklin server. Lucklin or Lucelin or however you pronounce it. And I remade Lagriana and played for 12 or 14 levels, probably. And then my brother moved out, and I didn't have access to his account anymore. I also had pretty much decided I didn't want to put too much effort into leveling a ranger that I wasn't going to get to play very often, since, if my brother was playing, I obviously couldn't. So she kind of got shelved for a while. This was, I believe, right before the Lucklin release. It was still, we were still in Scars of Velius. Lucklin hadn't come out yet. By the time I had saved up enough money to buy my own account and was financially stable enough that I felt comfortable paying the subscription, it was June of 2002. Lucklin had been out around 6 months. But the copy of Everquest I bought was just the original trilogy. I did not have Lucklin, therefore I did not have access to the moon or any of the advanced stuff that came along with it. No AAs, etc. This time around, I remade Lagriana yet again. And I'm not sure why, but for some odd reason, I went human this time. Where did all my hotkeys go? That's nice. No, you can't have spaces there. Just one moment. Slash pit attack. Okay, so anyways, where was I? Oh, yes. Anyways, I recreated a Lagriana. I got her up to about, I don't know, level 12, 14 maybe. And I ended up hooking up with my brother's guild. Great bunch of people. They were a social guild at the time. We were all mostly low level. They had only been around for a few months themselves. I ran into a ranger. They had class leaders, and their class leader for the ranger was just an amazing guy. He had been playing since the game came out. I believe he might have even been in beta, but I'm not 100% certain. He hooked me up with some nice, relatively low-level starting gear. He gave me my first magic weapon, Wakizashi of the Frozen Skies. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, but to me that was just the greatest thing in the world back then. And he taught me a lot of nice little things about how to play a ranger and aggro management and when to face tank and when to root and shoot and when to rot and just so many little things. Now, one of the biggest things about EverQuest back in those days, you almost had to group in order to progress. There were a few classes who were really good at soloing. Bards, Necros, Enchanters, Shaman, especially at the higher levels. But overall, most classes did best in groups. If you're lucky, you grouped up with friends and guildmates, but the option was also there to group up with strangers, usually referred to as pickup groups or pugs. You would just go to a zone and let the zone know that you were looking for a group, or LFG. You might get a group, you might not. Some areas were so busy that there were lists to get into different groups. High Pass Keep was my first encounter with a list. I could sit sometimes for hours waiting to get into a group. First was the Goblin Room, and then down in the Warrior Room, and once you got in the group, man, it was worth it. The XP would start moving fast. You could get some loot. You could get some money. It was great. Now, gradually, new expansions would come out, each one making the game a little easier and trivializing more and more of the stuff that came before it. Of course, all this time, Ala kept growing. You know, Luckland added AAs and made range combat a viable option. Planes of Power made it even stronger. But eventually there were just so many enhancements to the game that it sort of activated easy mode, and grouping was less and less common. The game was really losing what I felt was its strongest aspect, the socializing. More and more instances were added, class abilities were getting, at least in my opinion, overpowered. It just didn't even feel like the same game anymore. I started losing interest, and real life started requiring more and more of my time. I quit playing a few times, I came back a few times, but probably right around the Prophecy of Roe expansion, I more or less quit playing altogether. I mean, I did come back, but very briefly a few times after that, but pretty much I was done by that point. Then, years later, not really all that long ago, I guess, I discovered Project 1999. It's an EverQuest emulator project aimed at bringing back the period of EverQuest where grouping was actually a thing. A tiny mistake could wipe everyone in your group out, or in your raid. You really had to work for pretty much everything you got. There was no easy mode. You really had to put your all into it in order to get very far. And I was kind of intrigued. You know, I looked into it. I realized as much as I missed the game, for a long time the only reason I was still playing was my guild. Not because I was having fun in the game, but because I was having fun with the people I knew in the game. And the majority of them had also left by that point in time. I mean, classic EverQuest is typically considered everything, the original game and the first two expansions, the Ruins of Kunark and the Scars of Velius. Now, I actually did enjoy Luckland and Plains of Power, but the true EQ zealots, that's really not a very nice way to refer to them, but in some ways they practically are, consider classic EverQuest to stop at Kunark, or Velius. Hang on one second. Now, one thing about classic EverQuest is it can be pretty brutal. It's harsh, it's unforgiving, there's experience penalties for dying. When you die, everything stays on your corpse. You have to try to go back just to get your gear back, and sometimes that can be easier said than done. But that was actually part of what I liked about the game. So, I gave Project 1999 a try, and I actually fell in love with this game all over again. I mean, no matter how brutal it is, no matter how unforgiving it is, I love it, and I did not realize until then how much I actually missed it. But I started missing some of the people I used to play with. I wanted to see if they were still around, so I also logged into the live servers, and every once in a while I'll log on there and visit with a few of the people that I was guilded with for years. And then I tried Project 2002, which was another project I'd heard about, which was similar to P99, but was aimed at the Planes of Power era. Now, I've got a lot of respect for the guys who've done Project 2002. They've done a lot of work, they've accomplished a lot, but it doesn't feel authentic. They've left a lot of the quality of life changes that were added later in the game. You know, you've got out of combat mana regen, etc. It just doesn't feel right. But then I heard about the Al project, which is trying to emulate the Everquest Mac server exactly as it was the day it was shut down. They want to be just as authentic as the Project 1999 team. In some cases, even more so. And that was what I was looking for. So I made a couple characters on there, and I've been playing on live Project 1999 and the Al project, all of them. Then I started watching YouTube videos about Project 1999 to try to remember some of the details of the game that I had forgotten. And because I enjoy not just playing it, but watching other people play, seeing how they might play differently than myself, maybe pick up some pointers and some tricks, things I never even knew when I was playing live because they had changed by the time I had gotten to an appropriate level. I did not hit 46 until actually Planes of Power came out. I was a very slow leveler, and I did a lot of random questing and slow soloing. I would frequently go to places where I didn't even earn any XP just because my friends were there and I wanted to hang out. I'd buff some lobies, etc., etc. Then I had a thought. I've seen videos on new characters on all the servers. I've seen videos on leveling on the different servers. But I've never actually seen any videos comparing character creation and leveling across the different eras of EverQuest. So I said to myself, you should do a video comparing and contrasting leveling a character in old school EQ and new school EQ. And then I realized that, one video probably just wouldn't cut it. I would need several videos, and the more I thought about it, the more videos I thought I'd need. So I decided I'd probably do a series of videos, one for each era, showing the leveling process for a basically identical character on live, Project 99, and the Al project, and try to highlight the biggest differences between them. I figure maybe I'll do it in 5 to 10 level chunks, depending on how far along I'm going, because as you go higher, you definitely slow down on your leveling. Bouncing back and forth, maybe do 5 levels or 10 levels on Project 1999, and then do 5 to 10 levels on that similar character on the Al project, and then go to live and show you how much things have really changed. So here we are. I have set some minor rules about my character on live. I originally wanted to level it totally old school, but gave it some thought, and that's really not that feasible. So I will be leveling mostly in pre-Planes of Power zones, at least up to level 60. But since so much has changed, I'll have to make use of Planes of Power for travel, since you can't just out of character for Druid and Wizard ports, because there are none at that level anymore. And I'll have to kind of simulate buying gear in the East Commons Tunnel, because that's just not a thing anymore. And there's almost no low-level gear in the Bazaar. And I might have to simulate a raid or two just by using a high-level tune from another account to murderize the old world mobs, because there are no guilds left that are actually raiding low-level content, at least not on my server on live. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so now I know that the gear drops from the old world are in, in the live server now, are way better than any of the quested gear in the old world, but I still want to at least try to get some of that to do a comparison and show how much easier things are now than they were back then. There are so many changes that, I mean, trash mobs drop stuff that's better than some of the raid level gear from those old world zones. I will be using a mercenary on live, mainly because it's going to be very difficult to find groups. I'm not going to be leveling in the new zones, like Crescent Reach, etc., mainly because I do not like them. So I will still be leveling Old World. So I wanted to go with a race class combination that was obviously been around since EQ started, since obviously I can't do a Beast Lord in Classic EQ. I couldn't do a Zerker in Luckland. And I've thought long and hard about this. I wanted to play a class that I've never played to any great length on EQ before. And I wanted to play a class that I think I can play. Bard is definitely off the list because I suck at playing a Bard. I tried it. I can't twist. I just don't have the coordination for it. I don't know. I don't have any sense of rhythm. So Bard is out. Monk. Monk, no. I can't do it. I can't do a pure melee class. I've tried it. It's just not something I am thoroughly interested in. I mean, I might do it on one server, but I am not going to do it 3 times across 3 different servers. I don't want to do the Ranger again because I've already done the Ranger more than once. I'm not going to do a Mage because I've already done the Mage more than once. Enchanter, I was thinking was a possibility, but I would like to show the full extent of what the character is capable of, and I'm just not that good at charm soloing. Eventually, I came to the conclusion that my best bet is probably going to be a cleric. I've never played one extensively on live. I've had one and gotten, I think the highest I ever got a cleric personally was level 14, and that was on the test server on live. But my wife did play a cleric on live, and I've covered for her. I've played her character on a few raids where she wasn't available. So I am familiar with the class, just not extensively. So I'll still be learning new stuff as I go along. So pretty much the next episode, we're going to begin with character creation on one of the servers. I haven't decided which my first one is going to be yet. I'm thinking possibly Project 1999, but I'm not 100% certain on that. And we will get our cleric to level 10-ish, and then switch to another server, do the same thing, and once I get on live, we will actually play through the tutorial instead of going straight into the old world. Because I really want to stress how different it is on live now versus what it used to be. I will be posting each of these in their own playlist, but I will also be doing one giant combined playlist, mixing them together. Like we'll start with the 10 levels on P99 and then go to 10 levels on the Al Kabor project and then 10 levels on live and blah blah blah. And we'll bounce back and forth between them in case someone wants to see, side by side the progression. And if enough interest is shown in these videos, I might do more EverQuest videos. Not likely to be on live since I really don't have that much fun on the live servers, but I might, make some other class of character and we'll take a journey and take that character from level 1 all the way up to level 60 and see where it goes. But that being said, it's about time to close this out, and in our next episode we will create our cleric and start leveling up. Good night all, and be safe.